We're in Hermit's Hermitage now, after clearing Tower of the Future, so I'll go ahead and show the facilities in this area. The first is the inn. You can go here and pay 500 Gitan to fully restore HP, fullness, and strength. And sometimes you get an extra stat bonus, like if you sleep well, but it's a random chance. And Training Hermit's House, this is actually a side quest where you have to find a lost sage inside of one of the tower dungeons, and guide him back to Hermit's Hermitage. And once he's guided back here, he gives you tasks to defeat specific monsters, and if you complete the tasks you get a nighttime ability, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And he also appears here after you clear the main story, so you don't have to do the guiding part of the side quest. So that's what most players end up doing, I think. And this is the warehouse. It functions the same as the one in Nekomaniki Village. And the blacksmith. This is the NPC who asks for a juicy peach. So at first his services are not available, but once you give him a juicy peach, it unlocks. And his services include upgrading a weapon or shield. It's usually a +1 to upgrade value, but sometimes if you're lucky you get a +3. And he can also remove one of the synthesized runes of your choosing. So if you accidentally synthesize something that you didn't want, or you decide that you don't like it, you can come here and have it erased. And this is the sentry. Basically, how it works is, from this point on, you can place and remove tags on equipment, and they cost 3,000 each. And when you place a tag on a piece of equipment, there's an icon that shows that it has a tag, the blue icon next to the level number. And what this does is, if you lose the piece of equipment from, say, like a swordsman knocking it away and the piece of equipment hits another monster, instead of permanently losing the item, it gets delivered to the sentry here. And so you're free to pick it up. And sometimes it costs money, but usually it's free, I think. And it's pretty reliable. However, there are a few cases where even if an item has a tag, you won't be able to pick it up. And that's when the item itself transforms into another item. Like if you insert it into a sail pot and it transforms into Gitan, or insert it into a presto pot. And I think another case is if you have the item with you and during an adventure and the game freezes, or you quit without suspending properly, the item might be permanently lost even with a tag. So just be careful of those cases. And this is the item shop. It works the same as Nekomaniki Village too. It just has different items for sale. So next, from this point on, there's a day and night cycle. And let's see, I need to I have a full inventory, so I need to, the NPC gives us a fine torch, and there we go. Okay, I'll continue now. So, from this point on, there's a day and night cycle, and up until now, we've only dealt with day monsters, but when it turns to night, your field of view becomes limited to a 1-tile radius, and so you have to equip items called torches that expand your field of view. Otherwise, you basically won't be able to see in the dark. And the night, when daytime switches to night, all the monsters on the floor vanish and new monsters are generated. And night monsters function a little differently than daytime monsters. Basically, they're immune to direct attacks, like they only receive 1 damage from direct attacks, and you have to instead use attacks called abilities. So this NPC gives us 8 abilities to start with, and this Mine ability is a long-ranged attack, single target, and basically when you use an ability, you can only use each one time per floor, and so you have to be careful of how many ability uses you have left before advancing to the next floor. But there are a number of ways you can refresh abilities, and the first one is eating any peach, and I think like hard peach, I forgot exactly how many each type of peach refreshes, but I know juicy peach is all 8. So if you run out of abilities, it's good to keep peaches on hand so you can refresh them if needed. And the other is called Replenish Scroll, and it's a little rare to come across it, so it's probably not too practical to suggest it, but if you do happen to find a Replenish Scroll, it's good to keep it on hand. So with that said, if you talk to this NPC again, you can go to a night training facility, which is like the tutorial dungeon for night, and once you complete that, you'll be sent back to Hermit's Hermitage. So I think we'll go ahead and do that, just to try to illustrate what I'm talking about a little better. So right now it's daytime. If we look at the icon in the upper left of the screen, there's a sun icon. And as turns elapse, it switches to like evening, and then after a while it turns to night. So now it's completely nighttime. And the icon in the upper left switched to a moon. So now it's explaining how torches work. Right now, we can only see in a 1-tile radius around us. And if we equip a torch, unfortunately, regular torches don't expand our field of view beyond the 1-tile radius. But if we equip a higher grade torch called Fine Torch, it's a 2-tile radius, I believe. Yeah. So that makes it easier to locate stairs and items and other enemies during nighttime. And the noises of monsters hitting each other can be heard. And the way night monsters work is that they have poor eyesight, so they attack anything that's adjacent, including other monsters, and level up really easily. So this is a night monster. You can see that their eyes are red, and it's a darker shade of color than their daytime counterparts. So since we had a paralysis staff given to us, I'll go ahead and use that. And the old man gave us a ability necklace for the tutorial dungeon too, with one mine attack registered. So when we encounter a night monster, I'll go ahead and use that. And you can do a shortcut to access the ability menu. Instead of like going down to ability and then pressing A, you can just press X twice, from like X to open the menu and then X again to get to the ability menu. So if we release that, we see that it did 62 damage. So night abilities are generally a lot more powerful than like barehanded direct attacks too. And they can often one-shot. It depends on the ability, like the power rating, but the stronger ones can usually one-shot monsters. So now we were given a peach, and if we look at our ability list, we're not able to use this one anymore because it's grayed out. But if we eat this peach, now it refreshes the ability and we can use it again, even though we're on the same floor. Oh. So another thing you have to be careful of is like holding a direction at night. You should really take one step at a time instead of like just walking. So instead of doing this, you want to do this. Otherwise you run into a situation like I just had where I walked right into a night monster's attack. And after a while of either nighttime or daytime, you get a message saying that it's almost going to either switch to night or switch to day. So we just had that message come up. Your surroundings are getting brighter, day is about to break. And when that happens, all the night monsters disappear and day monsters replace them. So yeah, that's about how it works. Oh, and yeah, he gives you an additional ability if you complete the tutorial, but it's not exactly a good ability. Like, it just randomly uses a different ability, so I'm not gonna use it. I'll just stick with the default mine abilities. And we have all of our items back, so we didn't lose anything by doing that tutorial. think I saw a heal pot, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy it, I think. Actually, might be better to buy some other items. It's good to keep multiple torches on hand, too. Because after a while, torches go out, like they extinguish, and like once that happens, the torch can't be used anymore, like it just disappears. And once you equip a torch, if you unequip the torch, it also disappears. So they're one-time use. Looks like I might be able to buy the heal pot still. Probably don't need the cannon arm bracelet on hand. There we go. And heal pot is a nice pot that fully restores your HP and strength and cures I believe confusion and some other status condition. I forgot exactly which ones, but I know confusion for sure. At least I'm pretty sure. So with that, let's head to the next dungeon. So from this point on, monsters get to be a little more difficult. And the first floor has scoopies still. So if you have important pots, I'd recommend setting them on the ground. And heal pot, you can't insert anything into heal pots, so it's safe. So any type of pot that has a open instead of insert, you don't need to worry about scoopies. And this is an enemy called Beanie. It's the level 2 version of a CD. And it has higher attack power, but if you make use of your ally and both of you hit enemies on the same turn, you should be able to defeat them in one turn, I think. And Elegans, these guys might be a little trickier because they have higher HP and also high attack. And they also don't have a type effective weakness. So even with a shield with 23 defense, we received 21 damage, which is quite a bit. I'll go ahead and increase max fullness a little bit by eating additional food items when I'm already full. That frees up some inventory space too. And one of the things you have to be careful of here is that there are a lot of air tiles, like to the left and to our right. It's all air tiles. So if a Yampi headbutts you and knocks you onto an air tile, you'll warp to a random room on the current floor and become separated from allies. And if we spend too much time, it's going to turn to night, so I'm going to try to hurry onward a little bit. And from the second floor, there are grass dudes, which are the level 2 version of a grass kid. And they can carry up to 2 grass items at a time, instead of just 1. Yeah, as you see there, that one had 2. I'll just eat this to recover some fullness. And this is a monster called Geron, and what it does is it plucks or pecks staves from your inventory and reduces their use count to 0. So if it were to use its special attack on me, right now I have this balance staff outside of a pot, so it would reduce the remaining use count to 0. And the way to protect against that is to either place it on the floor as you fight, so that nothing happens, assuming it's your only staff in your inventory. And the other way to protect it is to just keep it inside of a pot. And in this case, balance staff only takes effect when it's outside of a pot, so I just chose to put it on the ground. Oh. So with stronger enemies like Elegons around, allies are a little more at risk of getting defeated. Especially, well, Jirakichi isn't too bad because he has high HP, but... Oh, and, okay. So, when you level up, sometimes you learn new abilities, and one of them you learn right away is Electrocute. And I like to overwrite one of these with Electrocute, but no more than 1. And Concussive Cannon is weaker than the default ability, but it has a characteristic where it can hit enemies, multiple enemies in a 3-tile with, what do you call it? Like a 3 spaces total, in forward directions. But I personally don't like using it because it's on the weaker side, and it won't be able to one-shot enemies as we go deeper into the dungeon. And self-help is it's a nice ability. Basically what it does is it makes your HP regenerate an additional 1 HP per turn, so it just speeds up your HP regeneration, but it's not really essential, because you should be trying to avoid damage in the first place, especially at night. That was not a good idea. I thought I could one-shot it, but if I had used its special attack there, my balance stuff would have been ruined. So we see that the color palette is getting a little warmer, so it's getting closer to evening. Oh, and it looks like the dirt we had in this pot that was preventing us from using the paralysis staff turned into revival grass. So that's pretty great. I'm messing up my button inputs a little bit. So now we see the sun is setting, night will fall soon message. We have a lot of herbs, so I'll go ahead and use some of those. Probably don't need upgrade seed anymore. I'll go ahead and make it turn to night in this room. So once it's nighttime, you don't want to wander around if you don't have at least a fine torch equipped. But if you have a monster detector, you can equip that, and it reveals all the monsters in the room, even if they're nighttime monsters, as we can see there. And the third floor is actually pretty dangerous because fear rabbits spawn. So right now we're at risk of getting surrounded by night monsters if a fear rabbit happened to be in this room. And you can't use a scout command at night. So there's no way for me to tell right now if the other two monsters in this room are fear rabbits. So I should hurry up and try to make it to a hallway. But if you don't happen to have a monster detector, then you'll have to rely on torches. And you might notice that the color palette is much brighter when you have a torch equipped too. And the significance of that is that night monsters deal less damage to you when you have a torch equipped compared to if you get hit without a torch. Even if you have a monster detector equipped, that's the case. So it's generally a good idea to equip a torch even if you don't need it, just to reduce the risk of accidents. And when you see monsters that aren't an immediate threat, it's usually good to ignore them, because you only have a limited number of uses for abilities. So you want to be conservative with the ability usage. And it's important to take one step at a time too, like this. Okay, so this is, I believe it's called Sinister Porcon, or Porky, something like that. Basically what it does is it throws rocks in a set radius. So I don't think it'll do it this time, because night monsters usually have a lower chance of using special attacks than daytime. So it's kind of rare to have it use it. So I'll just go ahead and defeat it. And since there's a Dark Fear Rabbit 3, I don't really want to enter rooms right now. So I'm going to hold B and then tap the A button to pass turns in a hallway instead. And it looks like this might be the Fear Rabbit. Yep, that was the one, so now I'll go ahead and enter the room. It's a little risky for me to be entering this room because there's a Fear Rabbit level 2 around. And if you don't happen to have a torch, like if it goes out, and in this case you don't want to walk around at all. And right now I'm in a dead-end room, so monsters can't spawn in the same room. So I'm relatively safe. And there's also a long hallway, so in this case, like if I don't have any other torches, I would just hold B and then tap the A button to pass turns waiting for daytime. Because wandering around without a torch at night and without a monster detector is just asking to collapse. It's just a matter of time before it happens. And one thing, I'm still at risk of, like if there happen to be swift enemies or enemies with yellow auras, there's a chance that I would get hit immediately. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so it's getting brighter. Day is about to break. We're almost there. I'll go ahead and get my torch ready in case it gets or turns to night again. Oh, and when a night monster defeats another monster, items can drop. Oh, there goes my balance staff. So since the balance staff is at 0 uses, I might as well just not carry it at this point. But what I was going to say is that night monsters, the items they drop are shop table items, so they're usually higher quality. And another characteristic about them is that they're always blessed. So we can see that the blurry stick has a bell icon. That means that the item is blessed. So just a cool thing about that. And blessed items are generally more powerful than regular plain items. So from this point on, there are some pretty tricky enemies. The one to our left is called Nigiri Morph. It turns inventory items into large onigiri. So, and that can be any item that isn't anything you have equipped. So right now, the old Haniki, Wolf's Head, Strength Bracelet, and Wood Arrows are safe, but any other item can be turned into large onigiri if it uses a special attack. So when you see one of these inside of a room, or like anywhere, you really don't want to let it act. So either like use something that is guaranteed like a staff or scroll, or if you have an ally, you can step away and have the ally fight it instead. In this case, I think I'll step to the lower right and let Jirakichi fight it. And another monster we have to be careful of is DJ Mage, which is the monster to our right here. And what this monster does is when it is lined up with you in a straight line, it uses magic, like staff magic, and the magic can make you warp to a random room on the current floor, or it can grant swift status. And another effect is it deals 10 tiles of knockback. So basically the one to watch out for is the warp effect, because that means you and your allies become separated, and the allies are at risk of collapsing. So to avoid having the DJ Mage warp me to a different room, I think in this case if I move up or down, Jirakichi is still lined up, so it has a chance of using its magic toward Jirakichi. And I don't think an arrow is enough to one-shot it, but actually since I have super status it might be. I'll go ahead and try that. And this isn't the safest option because projectiles have an 84% accuracy, so if it misses I'm still likely to get hit by magic. Okay, so that worked out. And this pin kid, or pin dude I should say, has a red aura, so I'm a little concerned how hard it's gonna hit. But since I'm at full HP, I'll go ahead and move to the lower right and test it. Okay, so it only did 1 damage to Jirokichi. And I'm a little nervous about going into hallways on these floors because of Nigiri Morph. If I run into one in a hallway and get hit by a surprise attack, it wouldn't be good. And these floors also have the higher level version of Floaty. They basically just have more or higher attack power. Not much else to it. And on higher level version of Karakoroids too. So right now I'm feeling pretty good about our equipment and items. So instead of checking each floor for item or each room for items and risking losing items to Nigiri Morph's special attack, I'm just gonna go ahead and rush to the stairs as soon as I find them. So we see that a Nigiri Morph is adjacent to us again, and there's risk of me stepping on a trap if I move to either of these locations or either of these tiles, but I'm going to go ahead and risk that. And since I'm not sure if there are any incoming enemies in hallways, I'm going to shoot some arrows to check every now and then. So we see a DJ Mage again, and since an Iron Arrow was enough to defeat it last time, I'll try that again. So yeah, one of the other effects, I think the last effect is the swap staff effect, which makes you switch positions with the target. I didn't see a DJ Mage had entered the room. But that's fine, we're on the stairs, so I'll just keep going. And Nigiri Morphs only appear between the 4th and 5th floor, so now we can be a little more at ease when it comes to walking around in hallways. So this isn't too great will take quite a bit of damage. But actually I think it's alright, as long as I defeat one of them. So yeah, never mind that. Oh, okay, so this is a boy cart monster. It moves at swift 1 speed and shoots arrows from a distance when you're lined up with it. And it has pretty high attack power, considering its speed and ranged capabilities. So instead of like taking a bunch of damage walking to a hallway when you're in a room with it, you can shoot arrows and try to like wipe it out basically. Okay, so this is a pretty bad situation. This monster is called Absorbifont, and what it does is it's immune to status conditions, and instead it absorbs them to fully recover its HP and increase its attack power. And that works not only on itself, but it can absorb the status conditions of adjacent creatures too. So if I were to paralyze this, what is it called? Iron Head? Yeah. If I were to paralyze the Iron Head to try to take on just the Absorbifont on its own, the Absorbifont would absorb the paralyzed status and gain an attack boost. So instead of doing that, I'll use a transient staff on the Iron Head so that it's warped out. And our HP is getting a little low now, so I'd like to stay in a room and heal a little bit. And Absorbifants are drain type monsters, so if you have the anti-drain rune, that is effective against them. Oh, this is interesting. So, let's see. If I were to eat Swiftgrass here to help out, like help with taking out these enemies, it's easy to forget when an Absorbifant is right next to you, but the Swiftgrass effect would be absorbed too. So it's not just negative status conditions that it can absorb, it can absorb the positive ones. So in this case, our HP is pretty full still. So I'm gonna go ahead and attack the Absorbifant. And I think I still haven't introduced talismans, so this is a pretty nice opportunity to do that. Basically, when you throw a talisman, it inflicts a status condition on not just the target if it connects, but everything in a 1-tile radius around the target. So if I throw a Confusion Talisman at this, I think it's called Poofy, then all of these monsters around it will become confused too. So there's a chance it'll miss, but I'll go ahead and take that chance. Okay, so it missed, unfortunately. But let's try again, just to demonstrate it. And confused enemies can hit each other and level up if you're unlucky, so you have to be mindful of that. But otherwise, it's talismans can be a nice way to get monsters like control a group of monsters. And Fraguchi drops a pretty significant amount of Gitan, like 951. If I were to throw this Gitan, it would deal 95 damage. So it's good to keep them or insert them into pots. And before advancing to the next floor, I'm going to try to heal up a little bit. This wasn't the smartest move. I think I'll go ahead and paralyze it, since we have a lot of uses left still. So, the sun is setting, night will fall soon. And now we're outside in a Skywalk area, and there's a monster called Punisher. It doesn't have a type effective weakness, I don't believe, and it has a chance to deal critical hits. So they can be pretty dangerous. But they don't have too high of HP, so if you use your ally, or work together with your ally, you can usually manage it. So I don't want to be hit by its critical attack, so I'm going to shoot an arrow to soften it, and then finish it with one direct attack. And this is a Hippodile, the level 2 version of a Hoppodile, and it hits quite hard. Let's see how much damage it deals. 30. So as you can see, even with a decent shield, it deals a lot of damage. And we have anti-aquatic and anti-dragon in our weapon right now, so I think it's safe to attack it. But since our HP is about 2/3, I'm gonna go ahead and use arrows to soften enemies too. And from the 7th floor at night, there's an enemy called Dark Grandpa Tank, and it's pretty dangerous. It's an enemy that shoots cannonballs and deals fixed amount of damage. Let's see if we can find one. Oh, there's one. So unfortunately it's in a hallway, so we won't get to see its cannon attack. Let's see if we can find one in a room now instead. Oh, okay. Yeah, another thing you can do, when you're traveling at night with an ally and you're worried about the ally getting hit and collapsing, you can throw a hide pot at them. Oh, and if it connects, it inflicts hiding status. Oops, I accidentally inserted it instead of throwing it there. And as you can see, direct attacks deal 1 damage, so Jirokichi had no chance. So that backfired spectacularly. Thankfully, we have a lot of revival grass and some healing items we can throw at the gravestone. But yeah, so as long as you remember to throw the item instead of inserting yourself into it, hide pot can be used to protect allies. And from the 8th floor, let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, 8th floor and 9th floor. I'm looking at the wiki here, the monster table. There's an enemy called Dark Daisy Cone, and what this monster does is throw confusion grass at us, which is quite dangerous at night, because you won't be able to move in the direction you want to move in. So, oh, but abilities can still be used in the direction you're facing. So it's basically the same as shooting projectiles or swinging a staff. Like, abilities function the same when you're confused. And in this case, Mine 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 is a long-range attack, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that. And if you remember, level 2 and higher Kappa monsters, board Kappa, when they throw items, they can actually hit you, unlike the level 1 version, so it's standing on a pot. I'm not sure what that pot is, but it's going to hit us this next turn, if it throws it. And since it's a night monster, it doesn't always use its special attack, so in this case, it didn't. And I'm going to try to avoid the large room to the north, just because there might be more monsters to deal with than I'd like. Okay, so that was a Grandpa tank, Dark Grandpa tank, and its cannonballs deal a fixed 40 damage, and it deals damage in a 1-tile radius, similar to like throwing a talisman. So you have to be pretty careful at night, because allies don't have too much HP besides Jirakichi. So I think I saw it shoot from this direction, so I'm going to go ahead and use Mine 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 on it. Yep. And if I can help it, I'd like to avoid using abilities, so I'm gonna try going around instead of... There we go. So Dark Daisy Cones can still spawn, so it's still a little dangerous on the 9th floor, I think. Oh, okay. Yeah. Rust traps make torches go out instantly too, as we just saw. I think I had one more torch. Yep. And this is an enemy called Bad Momoseal, and it stays in one place, like it doesn't move. And let's see. The nice thing about it on these floors is that it provides a lot of experience points compared to other monsters, so if you see it, try to defeat them. Let's see, 1,388 when it was a Bad Momoseal 2 from defeating one monster. And the only danger is if you're lined up vertically. It does this rolling tackle attack that deals a fixed 25 damage. But otherwise it's pretty harmless unless you become adjacent to it. So if you have a lot of peaches, this is a pretty good floor range to farm some Bad Momoseals to level up. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can find another one, since I have quite a few ability uses left. There's one. So now we're getting low on abilities, so I'm gonna head for the stairs. And the 10th floor has an enemy called Vile Pump Phantasm, and it's the same as regular Pump Phantasms basically, but they can traverse air tiles, so they can be a little tricky to navigate. Okay. So what I did there is I was lined up with the Yampi, and I didn't want to get knocked off into an air tile. So I took a step to the right. That way if it headbutts me, I just run into Jirokichi. And now I'll equip my Dual Tanuki. And floating type monsters, when there are air tiles like this instead of walls, they can detect you from anywhere on the floor and they come straight at you. So can be kind of a gauntlet at first. And there's also an enemy called Crow Tengu, and what that does is it is a floating type, but it disguises itself as a different monster on the current floor. So you can sometimes see some interesting or funny looking monsters flying through the air. Like this monster normally wouldn't be able to fly, so. And when you defeat them or seal them, it reveals their disguise. So, from this floor, there are MC mages and Kappa pests. And MC mages are similar to DJ mages, but they have different effects with their magic. If I remember right, it's confusion, 20 damage, transient effect, which warps you to the stairs and then paralyzes you. And the last one, I believe, is blind status, so it blinds you. They're pretty dangerous overall compared to DJ mages. And since there are 3 of them in the room, I'd like to avoid lining up with them, if I can help it. And let's see. Looks like a cross cart is entering the room too. This one is the same as boy cart, but it shoots iron arrows instead of wood arrows. I think I'll go ahead and paralyze this one. And cross carts have pretty high attack power. And now, unfortunately, we're lined up with the other MC mage. So I'm going to try moving diagonally. And now a crosscart is standing between us, so we're a little safer, but another crosscart appeared. So I'm going to try to make it into this hallway. And they don't shoot arrows if you're inside of a hallway. So you can lure them in and then safely defeat them. Oh, that's right. There are level 2 pier rabbits on these floors too. And now that I think about it, that's why I was trying to avoid the large room, but since it was a dead end, I had to go back. So now we're surrounded, and Jirakichi is still where we last were. And the best option here would be to read a fear scroll. And I am unable to defeat the crosscart in one turn, and if I hit it, it has a chance of retreating and being out of range. And fear status only lasts for, I believe, 12 turns. So I think I'll go ahead and paralyze the crosscart, since we have a lot of uses left still. That way I avoid taking damage, and I can guarantee that I have enough time to defeat all the other enemies. Okay. Try to heal up a little bit before advancing. And the same monsters appear on the 12th floor too. I think I have a mage staff, maybe? Nope. Must have discarded it. I guess I'll chance it. It's a little reckless to use direct attacks against it when you're adjacent or like lined up with it, but I'm at full HP and so now I'm confused and adjacent, so direct attacks aren't an option. I think I'll go ahead and use a transient staff. And then step in place until confusion wears off. And from the 13th floor, MC mages are still around, but there are also enemies called shagas and katana bees, and dragons are also introduced, along with level 2 mixers. So this is the level 3 blade bee, and I'll get rid of this first. It's a little risky to synthesize on these floors because there are powerful monsters like shagas, dragons, and katana bees around with pretty high attack power, along with level 2 gyazas, which are immune to projectiles. But if you can secure an area, it's a nice way to upgrade equipment before the boss fight. So in this case, let's see. I'd like to synthesize the diet shield I saved into my wolf's head. And I think it's safe to do it. There we go. And now, shagas have very high attack power, and they're dragon type, so anti-dragon is effective against them. And I think I should be able to defeat it in one turn if I use Jirakichi's help. Yep. And it's always better to take your time, taking one step at a time, instead of like dashing at this point. And the stairs never generates inside of a room with moving tiles, so we know that it's not to the right. Okay, so this is a dragon. It's similar to MC Mage, where it can breathe fire in a straight line from a distance, and it always deals a fixed 20 damage. So we have the anti-fire rune on our shield, so it only dealt 10 damage, but it has pretty high attack power too. But since we have the anti-dragon rune, I should be able to defeat it in 2 hits. And dragons have a pretty high item drop rate compared to other monsters, so if you're able to hunt them, it's a good idea. Oops. Chakra Cleans is a really nice ability. What it does is it cures negative status conditions if you happen to become afflicted with one during the night. But I think I'll skip it for now, because attacking abilities are nice to have during the main story. So the 14th floor has poofies again, and MC mages no longer spawn. So it's basically just the power type monsters and Mixermons. The level 2 mixers still spawn too. So now we don't have any torches left, I believe. Yeah, and I would like to use the monster detector, but I'll go ahead and show what I would do without it. So instead of walking around, basically walking around inside rooms, basically what I wanted to do is reach a dead-end room again. So it's a little dangerous to go this direction. And we see that the arrow hit Dark Venice Corp, so that means a monster is present in that direction, so I'm going to go ahead and step in place instead. And right now I can see both the tile that's adjacent to Jirokichi and the one that's adjacent to me, so I can cover for both. So now we see the scorpion here. And instead of defeating it, I'm going to go ahead and paralyze it. So it acts as a wall now. And you really want to avoid walking around in rooms at night between the 13th floor and 14th floor too, because they're level 3 DJ mages called MC Wizards, and they they can inflict a status condition called Berserk, and what that does is... Oh, I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't realize the Venice Corp was defeated by MC Wizard. So Berserk status makes you attack, or basically you lose control of Shiren completely, and he just walks around and attacks whatever creature is closest to him for 30 turns. So now Jirakichi has that status, and it's going to attack us because we're adjacent. So instead of letting that happen, let's see. This would be a good time for a hide pot if I had one. I think I'll go ahead and use a transient staff on him to send him to the stairs, and he's most likely going to collapse when I do that. But I'll use one of my Ultorgiriso when I make it to the stairs to revive him. And I think that MC Wizard cleared out all the monsters in this room, so I'm gonna go ahead and wait here. Oh, okay, well, we lucked out and the stairs happen to be right in this room. And, since we have a life grass and one open slot left on this shield, I'd like to go ahead and synthesize the energizing room, so instead of advancing, I'm going to look for a mixer mon. I'll try risking a talisman. Here's one. I'll go ahead and send it to the stairs room. And the reason I threw those talismans is because I thought a monster called Twin spawns here, but I just checked the monster table after I did that, and it looks like they only appear until the 13th floor, so I wanted to demonstrate that... Oh, looks like we lost a pot from a trip trap. I wanted to demonstrate that instead of like the level 1 Ndabas, they stay disguised even if you pick up the item, so you have to use the item once to see if they are a fake or not. I actually don't remember what all of these items were. Or bracelets. Life grass. And now we have energizing, increasing our max HP quite a bit. And once you clear the 14th floor, it's the boss fight, so I'm gonna go ahead and fully heal before advancing. And we'll continue from the boss fight next time.